Hello, I'm so thankful to be here with you today. Yesterday, I spent a few hours in a webinar on human biomechanics, and it was a lot of review, but it's always wonderful to hear because there's always a different way to say things. And so hopefully I can say some things in a way that you've not heard today so that you can connect even more with why we're practicing things the way we do. But one of the things that we spent a lot of time talking about yesterday was the importance of neutral pelvis and neutral rib cage. Because neutral pelvis and neutral rib cage, especially when we're sitting in a chair, impacts all of our movements, especially if we have an issue already going on in our bodies. We really want to work on these two things. And so while you're sitting, if it's challenging to rotate your pelvis, so those top two bones over your pubic bone, meaning number one, you don't feel like you can get that full rotation, or two, you have to hold yourself there. It's much better to lift your hips higher. And if you're not sure, I would say lift your hips higher anyway. So start for a while with your hips higher, especially if you have an issue going on in your hips, your lower back. Just get your hips higher to start. And this is a cushiony pillow, so maybe not even so cushiony, maybe a thicker stack of blankets or a little bit more firm pillows to get your hips a little bit higher. It will make it easier to rotate into neutral so you don't have to feel like you're holding it there, because we want to start all our movements from neutral, and then our rib cage as well, ribs relax down. So rotate your pelvis into neutral, top two bones over the bottom bone. You can either reach back and hold on to your chair, or if that's not comfortable since we're just starting, you can just do the chest movements, but without your pelvis going forward and back. Maybe I'll show you that from a side view. So without your pelvis going forward and back, your pelvis stays in that upright position. You're going to lift and lower your rib cage, but that's not everything going back and coming forward. The pelvis stays upright and just the ribs go up and down. So holding onto the chair, and let's do that a few times. And then of course, we also want neutral rib cage is when our ribs drop down and back. And for most people, it's a lot more than you realize, relaxing your ribs down and back. Now, the issue with most of our modern bodies is that, one, it's not comfortable for us to stay in neutral, or it's not our habit to stay in neutral. It's not natural to us. And two is that maybe we can't even get to neutral because of the tensions we have around our hips and around our shoulders. So we're just coming as close as we can, but in the most comfortable way that we can. So next time your ribs drop down, recheck your pelvis is upright, ribs stay relaxed down, breastbone is very, very vertical. It might feel like your shoulders are hunching and your head comes forward at first. You can back your ears up a little bit, but try not to pull your shoulders back. Reach your arms to your sides, palms face up. While you're here, you can check that the outer edges of your feet are straight, your ankles are under your knees, and then let's just reach our arms up and lower them down, low chest height. And tune into your breath while you're here. So, neutral. Why is neutral so important? It's not that we need to move in neutral all the time, but it's neutral tells us something about all of our other movements. For instance, if you look at a very small child, and I'm talking before even preschool age. What is preschool? 3 years old. Already by 3 years old, in modern culture, a lot of times kids have already been spending time sitting in chairs, wearing sometimes even heeled shoes. So they start to pick up on the patterns of the modern body already that young. But younger than that, a little kid, if you watch them, they're moving around all the time, just moving. But if you catch them for a second, plopping themselves down on the floor or even sitting in a little chair, their pelvis is naturally in neutral when they're resting. And of course, there's cases where that's not the case, but in most cases with kids, if everything went smooth with childbirth and whatnot, I mean, there's so many factors, then they would be in neutral. And what that says, when they rest and they're in neutral, it says that when they're moving around, they're using their muscles around their joints pretty equally. Okay, let your arms come down here. And then from here, let's come into our first lunge. We're going to do a bunch of lunges today. So spin around to your right, slide your left knee back right underneath your hip. Pelvis is in neutral. For this one, you really want to let your ribs relax down. If it doesn't feel comfortable to lean back on your lower back, then just stay in the lunge. You're still getting nice range of motion through your hip and your knee, but with your ribs relaxing down, how about just leaning back a little bit and coming forward, as opposed to leaning back from your shoulders. So front ribs stay down, lean back a little bit, and come forward. Lean back a little, and come forward. Lean back a little, and come forward. And then slide that leg forward, spin around to the other side. Take your time. Slide your knee back. You can have the top of the shoe or the foot or your toes tucked under, knee right under the hip, ribs relax down. If you feel comfortable, put your hands on your bones because that will help really teach you if things are staying in place. Hinge back a little and come forward without the knee going forward or back. Hinge back and forward. Hinge back and forward. Hinge back and forward, and then slide that knee forward and spin back around. All right, from here, let's walk your feet nice and wide, outer edges of your feet straight, thighs open, open your arms to the side, palms face forward, and then wrap your right arm on top of your left arm and open up. And right arm on top, same arm on top, and open up, low chest tight. Right arm on top and open up. And right arm on top, wiggle your fingers around a little, drop your elbows down, drop your chin down to your chest, and take a few breaths here. Inner thighs opening. So you can see when they plop into rest mode that they're in neutral, and it's saying something about the way they move all the time. And why is it so important that we want our muscles to work as equally as possible around our joints? For many reasons. It keeps the joint stable, which reduces friction, which can, helps with bone density over time, helps us avoid things like arthritis in the area, circulation issues in the area, and then slowly lift your head up, open your arms out, and let's do the left arm on top. Left arm on top. And open. Keep checking. Is your pelvis upright? Left, and mine was sunk back a little. Left arm on top and open. Left arm on top and open. Left arm on top without thrusting the ribs. Ribs relax down, elbows relax down, chin drops down to the chest. But so when you see people who have been accustomed to modern culture and one, not moving as much as we get older, not that constant like moving around and playing, shoes and cars and chairs and not carrying and lifting stuff all day long like human beings had to, the way we go into sitting and standing is no longer in neutral. The way we hold ourselves is no longer in neutral. And then it's showing us that the way we're moving is also in an imbalanced way. And then lift your chin up, open your arms out nice and wide, relax your arms down, and then roll your thighs in towards each other and roll to the outer edges of your feet. And I'm going to scoot back a little. I'm sliding off my chair here. Roll to the inner edges of your feet and roll to the outer edges of your feet. You can hold on if that's happening with you too. Roll to the inner edges, go nice and slow. Roll to the outer edges. Roll to the inner edges and roll to the outer edges. Okay, keep your legs nice and wide open with your thigh bones open. And then from here with your pelvis upright, your ribs relax down. We're gonna ramp the head. Really keep a hand maybe on your ribs or your breastbone, and your head slides forward and ears slide back over the shoulders, which is our neutral as long as our ribs are really relaxed down and back. I'll turn from the side. You can do a few more of those. And when you're sliding back, Make sure you're not leaning your head back and lifting your chin up, because then your spine and your cervical spine is no longer neutral. Chin stays parallel with the floor. And it's not so much about the outward motion, because that's where we tend to be when we're not paying attention. It's more about sliding your head back. When it goes forward, it goes out and down a little bit, and it's pulling more on your neck and your shoulders all day long. And then when it slides back, it's going back and up slightly. Do a couple more like that. And then from there, let your thighs that are still wide roll in towards each other. And now we're going to turn our neck and drop it side to side, but we're going to start from a ramp. So you slide your ears back over your shoulders, chin points down to the floor, and you just slowly drop your right ear to your right shoulder, but the whole time your head is gently ramping back. And keep your head gently ramping back as you drop your left ear to your left shoulder. And you might notice with your head ramping, it might not go as far, and that's okay. Head gently ramping back, go over to the right. Make sure those ribs are staying relaxed down. And head ramping back, go over to the left. Thighs are dropping in towards each other. And then bring your head back up. Keep gently ramping back. Turn your neck to the right. As you slide back through center, just check that you're gently backing your ears over your shoulders. Turn your head to the left. And head backing up as you turn to the right. And head backing up as you turn to the left. And then come back to center, release your hand, let your thighs open. From there, walk your feet in, and then you're going to scoot your hips a little bit over so your right hip is on the center of the chair, and heel toe your left foot out to the side. Just so much that your hips still stay facing forward, but now your left toes are turned out to the side. And then from here, twist your belly, pelvis upright, ribs relax down. Twist your belly to your right. Really try to feel the waist turning. And unwind, and now hold on to your chair in any way that you can, so you can extend that left leg out, heel down, toes up, and take your left arm up and over into a side bend. And it's okay if your leg is more at a forward angle. And then bring that hand down, and let's maneuver that one more time. So hold on however you need to. Bend that knee, put the heel down, knee bent, and twist your belly to the right. And then unwind and extend that leg, slide it out, heel down, toes up. Take your left arm into a side bend. And then bring that hand down and slide that knee in, heel toe your foot to walk that foot back to center. And then we'll switch sides. We'll move our hips so that they're a little bit over to the right, and heel toe your left leg out, and just go as far as you can that you don't feel your whole pelvis and torso turn. So you're just walking the thigh out, toes point at any angle that the knee is at, and then twist your belly to your left. Feel the turn of your waist. And unwind, extend that leg out. It's often a little trickier the first time because you're maneuvering how to move that way. And then take your right arm up and over, lengthening all the fingers, the elbow, the shoulder, toes in the air. And then bring that hand down, bend the knee nice and slowly, ankle under the knee, turn your belly button to the left. Pelvis still upright, ribs still relaxed down. Important all the time, but really important for a twist. And on our next twist, I'll explain why. And then unwind and extend that leg out, heel down, toes up, and take the arm up and over into a side bend. Good. Bring the hand down, bend that knee in, heel toe your foot back to center. Keep on going, and then sitting up, pelvis in neutral. Extend your leg straight in front of you, heels down, toes up. And from here, with your elbow pits, soft front part of your elbow, and your palms facing forward, one arm at a time, we'll just circle your right arm around. And you want to check, you can even put your hand on your chest or your ribs to feel them dropping down and back as you circle the right arm. If you get a lot of cracking and popping, go slower through those areas. Maybe don't make the circle so big at first. Usually that's an indication that your arm's not used to moving and shoulders not used to moving in that range of motion that often. And then pause and circle in the other direction. Go slow, feel the motion, and that way you can catch if you get any cracking or popping. Dropping your ribs down will help with that a little bit as well. And then we'll switch arms. Ribs relax down and circle the arm. Take your time. One of the most important parts. So we're working on getting our bones as close to neutral as possible so we move more parts of ourselves. Circle your arm in the other direction. But at the same time, the movements we do in these classes are designed to help change the musculature so that it's also easier to come in neutral. So it feels easier and more relaxed to come into neutral more often. Okay, and then relax that arm down. Take your hands out in front of you, curl your hands into a fist. Can you turn your elbow pits so they face the ceiling? Can you turn your elbow pits so they face the ceiling? Your arms might have to come in a little. And then can you keep your elbow pits facing the ceiling and circle your wrist? And it's a lot different than circling your wrist and kind of letting your whole forearm and your shoulders move. You're keeping your elbow pits wrapped up towards the ceiling and circling your wrist and trying to draw a complete circle, but the motion might be a lot smaller because you're stabilizing your shoulders and your elbows. And then pause and circle your wrist in the other direction. And then release. All right, from there, bend your knees. We're spin around to the right and we're coming like we're gonna do a lunge, but instead we're gonna slide that outside leg forward, heel down, toes up in the air, which is a neutral ankle when your ankle's in that 90 degrees. Try to rotate from your pelvis as much as possible. You want more of the pull on the back of your leg to come from the pelvis rotating instead of your spine rounding forward. So rotating the pelvis, and then maybe hinge forward a little. See if you can even keep a somewhat straight or natural curve to your spine as you hinge forward. And then slide that front leg back into a lunge. And with your toes tucked under, you're gonna go slow here. If the back of the leg cramps, just come back into that stretch and rub it out a little bit, but you're gonna just lift your toes up off the floor and lower. And as you lift, notice if your knee pops forward, try to slide it back and keep it under your hip. And at first I'd go really slow and start with little lifts. And then over time, you can nice and slow lift up a little higher and tap your toes down. Let's do a couple more of those. All right, and then slide that leg forward, spin around to the other side. I'm gonna have to get a better pillow to sit on. This one is a little slippery to do all this stuff. All right, from there, slide that outside leg forward, heel down, toes up, and try to mostly move from the pelvis, which might mean that it's really small at first if your tendency is to be back here. So rotate from the pelvis and hinge forward. And slowly come up and then slide that knee back, knee right under the hip. And then from there, of course, you're holding onto your chair in whatever ways need it. And then little lifts, trying not to let the knee pop forward. Knee stays back under the hip. Lift and lower. And then if it feels okay, you can go a little higher. If your leg cramps up at all, just slide it forward. It's very common that it cramps up a lot sometimes when people first do this, or if you haven't done it in a while, it will cramp up. One more. And lower down, and then slide that foot forward and spin back around to the front of the chair. Okay, from here we're going to do a top of the foot stretch. This works if you have shoes on. If they're not very flexible shoes, it will be harder to do, but you're just going to tuck the top of your right foot back and try to put that area like right where your toes are or above your toes where your shoelaces are. It's nice if you have a mat or a rug or something thick under there and you're not just putting your top of the foot on a hardwood floor. And then from here in our top of the foot stretch, reach your arms out with your wrist extended, fingers pointing up. Check, is your pelvis in neutral? Are your ribs relaxed down? And then turn your wrist down and up and down and up and down and up and down and up. And then from here, let's switch feet so you can relax your arms. Tuck the top of your left foot under. Reach your arms back out to the side. Just extend your wrists so your fingers point up about low chest height. And from here, rotating from the very top of the arm bones, like you're waving to someone, go nice and slow. You're turning your arm bones one way and turning your arm bones the other way. So the ribs staying relaxed down and back, which will come in time for those of you that are brand new to these classes. You really want to focus on your feet being straight and what your pelvis is doing for quite a while. But that impacts how you're moving your shoulders all the time. The pelvis being in neutral is impacting how you're moving your hips. All right, and then from there, release your arms, slide that foot forward, and then from there, we're gonna put our ankles right underneath our knees, press down equally through the balls of your feet, and do some heel raises here. And what you're trying to avoid is your heels spinning one way or the other. So your outer edges of our feet are straight, ankles hip distance apart, and you're pushing equally down through the balls of your feet to get your heels to slowly lift up and lower down. And you can either stick with this and go slow and try to notice what part of your foot rolls off the floor, or you can add a little weight by leaning forward and putting your hands down, or you can even put your elbows down on your knees, and then you have a little bit more weight to lift when you're doing your heel raises. Watch the ankle. So neutral ankle, as you can imagine, is not when the ankle is twisting to one side or the other. It took me a long time to get my ankles to be a little bit more stable, but if they're twisting, that means it's happening pretty much like every time you go up and down the stairs, that's happening. So you can imagine the impact up through the knee into the hip joint. Okay, and then lower the heels down, and we are going to spin around into another lunge. So spin around to your right. This is a little something different. Slide that knee back. Now, if it's not comfortable to lift the foot up off the floor, then just stay longer in lunges and do them more often, chair lunges. But otherwise, you're going to lift your toes up off the floor and you're going to hold, and you're slowly going to pull your thigh bone back a little and let it go forward a little. Back a little and forward a little. Back a little, forward a little, ribs relax down, back a little, forward a little. And then when it's hanging right under your hip, how about opening out a little and drawing it in towards the chair? And this is a very small amount. It just opens out a tiny bit and hugs it. Open the thigh bone out, hug in, open the thigh bone out, hug in, put your toes down, slide your leg forward, spin around to the other side. All right, so thigh bone slides back, perfectly great to stay in a lunge more often, ribs relax down, just staying here or lifting your toes off, or you can just do the lift and lower your toes or keep your toes lifted and slide forward a little and pull back. Slide forward and pull back. Slide forward, pull back, slide forward, pull back. Stay with your knee back under your hip. Open a little out to the side, hug towards the chair. Open and hug. Open and hug the whole thigh bone. Open and hug. And then slide that foot forward, spin back around. And then from here, this would be easier to see from a side view. So you just stay in your chair where you are. But from the side view, you're going to sit back all the way in your chair, and we're going to work on not letting our ribs lift up. So your ribs are dropping down. Now you can even maybe feel them or part of them on the back of your chair, depending on how high your chair is. And then with your hands behind your head, you're going to try to lean yourself back as far as you can, but without your ribs lifting up and pushing forward. And again, it might be really small at first if the thoracic spine is tight. So just do the best you can. Lean back without the chin lifting up either. So not going into the air, the chin stays down, and come back up. You can even keep your ribs on the chair the whole time. You're just leaning back, almost like you're doing crunchies, and come back up. And leaning back without the ribs lifting up off the back of the chair, and come up. And this one will hold for a little longer. Hinge back from your head, chin drops down, trying to keep the bottom back of the ribs touching the chair. Breathing. And bring your head back up, and then release your hands. I'm going to spin my chair back around. And from here, we'll do a twist, outer edges of feet straight, ankles hip distance, but it becomes very important. Pelvis rotates upright, ribs relax down, be sitting on something higher as you turn your belly to the right. So, as I mentioned, when it's your pelvis in neutral, it impacts the musculature all the way around the hips. Rib cage in neutral, shoulders, and both together, your core and your lower back. So a lot of lower back issues over time can start to heal if you work with your ribs and your pelvis in neutral more often. When it comes to twisting though, if the pelvis and the rib cage are not as close to neutral as we can get them, what happens is the twist happens not so much in the spine and happens in other musculature. So you're getting the most motion in your spine when your pelvis is in neutral, and when your rib cage is on your neutral, you're getting the most amount of rotation available, focusing on the waist. Bring your left hand to your left knee, keep turning from the belly button. You can also work on sliding your ears back over your shoulders. Reach your left arm into the air and tap the hand down. Reach up and tap down. Reach up and tap down. Reach up and tap down. And then from there, rotate your belly button to the left. Really focus on the waist. Checking, is my pelvis upright? Are my ribs relaxed down without straining? And then stay for a few breaths here. You can start by flipping your left palm up on your left knee and breathing. Keep turning from the waist, and then the right arm goes up in the air and tap down to the knee. Up in the air and tap down. Up in the air and tap down. And up in the air and tap down. All right, unwind your waist. Let's go around for one more lunge we have. Spin around to your right, slide your leg back. Now, this is of course going to depend somewhat not only on the tensions you hold in your body, but on your dimensions and the size of your chair. So just bear with yourself and do the best that you can. But from here, you're going to lean forward and try to extend your back leg. And then bend your knee back down to the floor as you come up, the whole time the ribs relax down. Lean forward first, extend the back leg, and then bend as your torso comes up at the same time. Let's do two more like that. Lean forward, extend any amount, and come back. And one more. Lean forward and extend. And come on down and slide that leg forward and take your time and spin around to the other side. Even this in itself is a movement, just spinning around. Slide the leg back, knee right under the hip. When you first lean forward, you might have to slide back through your foot a little bit, but then usually your foot can stay in about the same place. As you come back, it will just slide forward a little. And hinge forward, extend back through the leg. And come up at the same time that the knee bends down. Hinge forward. And back. And hinge forward. and come on back and slide that leg forward and spin back around. Okay, from here you can use a block or whatever prop that you have, an upside down basket, an upside down plastic container, put it inside your left foot, and you can either put the edge of your foot on or you can put your ankle over your knee. But when most of us put our ankle over our knee, it's really hard to really get the pelvis into neutral. And of course, we can start leaning back and relaxing here and work on that over time, but we're gonna try to sit up and rotate our pelvis. So if that means putting your foot a little bit lower, then go ahead and do that. And one of the wonderful things, and you can fold forward any amount, try to rotate from your pelvis from being at home, is that you might have more options. You might have a small stool that you could use, or things of different heights. You could use something almost as high as your knee, or the block at multiple different heights. And then come up and unwind and switch legs. And you can either put the ankle right on top of the knee and hip in line with knee, knee in line with ankle, outer edges of feet straight, rotate forward from the pelvis. Smooth inhales and exhales. Try to feel equal weight on both of your hips. And then come on up and release and slide that prop back if you're using it, and then neutral pelvis. You can even feel as though your thigh bones are drawing in, your feet are stable on the floor, ribs relax down, open your arms. And before we come up to stand, let's just go up and down a few times and tune in and make sure our breath is flowing. Sometimes I wish that when I first started, I could show you videos of what my body was like when I first began, because I really wanted to drop my ribs down all the way and get my pelvis into neutral. But because of my habit patterns of working, sitting at a desk for so many years, and then on top of that, I practice yoga, which I love, but I exasperated my issues because I was practicing yoga with my ribs thrust in the air and my tailbone all over the place, my pelvis never in neutral. So in many ways, I made the imbalances stronger in my body because I was practicing so often like that. And that's the thing with movement, is you can build on your imbalances, even though exercise is making you feel better. And so the neutral will help us not to do that. Okay. But I'll get more into what I was doing. So ankles under your knees, watch your thighs collapsing in or out. Try to come up with less momentum as you push your hips back and come up. This is where it's really great to maybe have an extra stable pillow on your chair. These pillows are actually a lot more stable. So then you can sit back and you don't have to go as far. Are your feet straight? Are your ankles hip distance apart as you sit down without falling any amount? And then checking ankles didn't scoot back, inner thighs open, push down, push your hips back to come up. And we're just going to do 2 of those today, and you're going to come around to the back of your chair. Oops. Okay. So from the back of your chair, we're going to start with a calf stretch. You can use a thin yoga block. You can use a half dome if you have one. I'm going to put a prop video up soon, but most of you haven't taken my classes and you're familiar. A towel is a great prop for everything, especially if you have a thick one. This is a thick towel, fold it lengthwise in half and rolled up. So putting the towel down, put the ball of your right foot up, your heel down on the floor. And then you can step your left foot forward any amount, and not so far if you feel like you're losing your balance or leaning forward. Try to balance the weight between both of your legs, and then turn your palms facing forward and pull back and relax. And extra to relax those ribs down. Pull back and relax. And that's really the motion you're going to get into, just pulling back and relaxing. And notice if when you pull back, your arms veer out to the sides, try to keep them pretty close to your sides. So when I first started, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the alignment cues. And that's why it's so interesting that I ended up teaching this stuff, because first of all, I saw such a huge difference in my body, and I wasn't even I had an injury which led me to human biomechanics. And my injury was around my neck area, and it happened from my yoga practice. And it was because I was a major rib thruster, meaning all the time in all my classes I was standing, shoulders pulled back, chest lifted. When I first dropped my ribs down, that's why I wish I had videos to show you guys, I really look like this. Like, that's where I had to start exercising from. And I would just keep my ribs down like that and move my arms around and do the exercises. And it was when I was walking, I'd practice. And surely everything started to change. Little by little, all of a sudden my spine was more upright, my shoulder blades became a little bit broader. So it feels counterintuitive. Let's switch feet sometimes. But if you really work on it, you'll get the right muscles moving, and you'll feel better too. Elbow pits and palms forward, and one arm at a time. Really relax those ribs down and back. You can slide your ears back over your shoulders. Are your feet straight? Are your ankles hip distance apart? You can always step that foot forward, which I think I mentioned. Breathing here. I've often said that this is one of my favorite ones to do throughout the day. And it's one that if we led more natural lifestyles, we would be doing all the time. Because when you're walking, you have a naturally backwards, especially when you're walking on flat surface, reciprocal arm swing, where the arm actually swings backwards to help the body propel forward. Now, of course, your arm swing is depending on how fast you walk. And so it's not going to be that big if you're walking slowly. But at first, when you're learning alignment, you really want to walk slowly a lot. So just getting in some extra arm swings is really good to do all the time. And then let's relax our arms and let's step off there, and you can move that to the side, and just notice when you're moving things around, what do your feet do? Can you start positioning your feet straight and your ankles hip distance more often? Sit back into a chair pose, step your right leg back into a lunge. You're high on the ball of the foot is centered. Reach your right hand forward, and then we'll circle our arms here. But if you tend to thrust your ribs forward, draw your ribs down. If that's not the case for you, if you curl your pelvis under, then relax your belly. And from here, circle that right arm. Go slow. Feel the motion. And pause and circle in the other direction. And release. Push down through the ball of your back foot, press up through the front foot, sit your hips back, step your left leg back into a lunge, reach your left arm forward, and go slow and circle in one direction. The other thing that happened when I started dropping my ribs into neutral and putting my pelvis in neutral is my core got a lot stronger and real strong. Pause, circle in the other direction, as opposed to fake strong. My core used to be fake strong. I would hold my belly in all the time, hold my stomach really tight. My muscular looked toned, but all the core muscle exercise I was doing, my ribs and my pelvis were not in neutral, so it was not actually working. My deeper core muscles, bring that hand down, push into the ball of the back foot, the heel of the front foot. And so a lot of people have what's called a fake strong core, where if they let their stomach go, a bunch of stomach comes out, even though their abdominals might look toned, as opposed to really relaxing your stomach and still having a core that feels strong. From here, with your hips backed up, you're bending your knees. If they go forward, step your feet a tiny bit forward so you can sit your hips back. You're trying to get length in your spine. Think of when you're sitting, it translates to this. So if your spine is rounded, that's not a neutral pelvis. Relax your belly, let your tailbone go up, and then see how much you can straighten your legs, keeping that. Rebend your knees, sitting your hips back. Feel the length in the arms here when you take the hamstrings out of it a little bit, meaning out of the stretch, not out of the work. And then push your thigh bones back. And bend, sitting back in your hips. And push your thigh bones back. And bend, sitting back in your hips. And push your thigh bones back, and then press down into your heels to come up to stand and walk up to your chair. And let's do a little balancing here with the outer edges of our feet straight, ankles hip distance. Back your weight up into your heels. So try not to be forward. This is where a chair comes so in handy. You can keep yourself backed up. Push down through your outer right hip and bend your left heel in towards your buttocks. And just notice, does the knee tend to pop forward? Does it tend to go out to the side? Bring it down and back. And then put that left foot down, push down through the outer edge, foot straight, and bend the opposite heel in. Does the knee pop out? Bring it down, slide the thigh bone back, and lower down. Push down, and bend in. Making any adjustments, push down through the left hip, weight back in the heel, and bend in. And one more each side. Push down, and bend in. And one more, push down, and bend in. And then lower that foot down, and step your feet nice and wide here. And you're still behind your chair so that you can lean on the chair and push your hips back, especially if you have lower back issues or you're not sure that your spine is in neutral net, yet it's good to give your spine a little bit support. So you're backing your hips up, trying to relax your belly so your tailbone can get up a little high. And then what you're doing is shifting your hips from right to left without bending your knees. Nice and slowly, side to side. Backing the weight up into your heels. And breathing, you can work with a neutral thigh bone while you do these. And so the more that our pelvis is in neutral here, the more musculature we're moving in the area. But we might not be in neutral yet, that's okay. We're just trying to relax into it as much as we can. And if we know we're really far from neutral, then we just make the motion smaller at first. Okay, bring your hips back to center. From here, your legs are nice and wide. And now you're going to do the same thing we just did with our legs hip distance. Sit back into a chair pose and push your thigh bones back. Sit back, inner thighs open, knees back over the ankles, and push your thigh bones back. Two more like that. Sit your hips back and push your thigh bones back. Sit your hips back and push your thigh bones back. Come on up, your feet are still wide, and now circle your hips forward to one side, back a little, out to the other side, and forward. Take your time, really feel the motion. If you don't have much hip motion to circle, then you're just doing the best you can. You can go a little faster. If you have quite a bit of hip motion for you, especially, go a little slower. Now your pelvis is moving in and out of neutral, but your ribs don't have to be. So relax your ribs down as you move your hips around. Pause, circle in the other direction. Are you clenching your buttocks muscles? Are you clenching your thigh muscles? Let them relax. One more in this direction. All right, your feet are wide, your arms are open, right arm on top. Sit back, wrap around, open up, left arm on top. Ribs down, sit your hips back, and open. Right arm on top, and open. Left arm on top, and open. Right arm on top, and open. You can look down and check your legs. Left arm on top, and open. Right arm on top, hold. Drop your chin. First, ramp your head back a little, then drop your chin down with your head ramped back a little bit. Breathing. Press into your feet to straighten your legs. Head up, open your arms, sit back, left arm on top. Head ramps back a little, drop the forehead down. And straighten your legs nice and slowly. Head slides back, arms open. Put your hands on your chair, and let's do some more hip shifting. Outer edges of feet straight. Back your thigh bones up so your weight's in the heel. This time, maybe when you go to the right and you stay for a moment, and then you can go to the left and stay for a moment. And do that one more time on each side. And then come back to center, press down through your buttocks into your heels, walk your feet back into hip distance apart, outer edges of feet straight, sit back into a chair pose. You'll step your right leg straight back into a lunge. So top pelvic bone in line with the center of your ankle, push off the ball of that foot to step up. Feet straight, ankles hip distance, sit back. Now step your right leg out to the right a little bit, landing on the center of the ball of the foot. Feel how the change of the bones changes the pull on the muscle. Push into the front of the front foot through the heel, the back foot through the ball of the foot. Press up, sit back in a chair pose, step your right leg across behind your left foot. Take a breath here, pushing down equally through the ball of the foot. Try to work more on the ball of the foot than the toes. And then push down to come up. Feet straight, ankles hip distance. Sit back. Step your left leg straight back. Ball of the foot down. So in our high lunges, we're always leaning forward a little bit because if we come up and we keep our legs straight, our pelvis won't be in neutral. See how it's now tilted back? You'd almost have to bend your back knee to get your pelvis in neutral. So instead, we have our torso leaning forward, and that has our pelvis in neutral. Push down to come up. Sit back, step your left foot out to the left a little bit, high on the ball of the foot. Breathing here. Push into the heel of the front foot, the ball of the back foot. Feet straight, ankles hip distance. Sit back, step your left foot across behind a little bit. Push into the heel of the front foot, the ball of the back foot to press up. Okay, with feet straight, ankles hip distance apart. And you know, I realize I don't do a ton of poses where we just stand in stance like we do our calf stretches and balances, but just standing in stance, that's what this pose is called, or mountain pose perhaps, even though some variations are with your feet together, is so important because this is when you're working on all your things, and this is probably how you're going to be standing most of the time in your life. Feet straight, ankles hip distance apart. Does your hips drift forward? Back your hips up. Do your ribs lift up? Drop the ribs down. It's okay if you feel like you're hunching forward at first. Bring your right arm on top of your left arm and hold onto your shoulders so your arms are crossed. And now just circle your torso around without much movement in your pelvis. Take your time. Pause. Circle in the other direction. And don't go back very much or forward too much if you feel any discomfort. Ribs are relaxed down. Okay, and then let's do some balance moves. So you can have your chair next to you. Push down through your outer right hip. Bend the left heel in towards your buttocks any amount. And then keep pushing down. If that hip tends to pop out, hug it in. Pelvis in neutral. Thigh goes forward. Thigh goes back without pulling the pelvis back with it. So just the thigh bone. Thigh goes forward. Thigh goes back. Thigh goes forward. Thigh goes back. Thigh goes forward. Thigh goes back. Thigh right under the hip. Touch the knees. See if the thigh's popping forward. Bring them to touching. Open out to the side a little. Touching. Go slow. Open. Check your standing leg. Weight still back in the heel. Tap it in. Open up. Tap it in. open up, and then lower the knee, put the foot down. Now just check, if you're not feeling some work here and you're feeling most of the work here, that's a good indication that your weight was forward and you didn't realize it. Or that your foot maybe have not been straight. So check all your cues. Let's do the other side. Feet straight, ankles hip distance, weight back over the heels, push down through the left hip, bend the right knee in, and pelvis stays in neutral so it's not tilting. Thigh bone goes back, thigh bone goes forward. And back, and forward. Back, and forward. Back, and forward. Knee drops down, out to the side, and down. Tapping in. Out to the side, a little goes a long way, tapping in. Out to the side, tapping in. Out to the side, tapping in. Bring that knee to center, lower the foot down. All right, from here, standing in stance, reach your arms up, palms come together, and tap the top of your head, or you can go behind your head and extend your arms. Front ribs relax down, weight back in the heels. Tap, extend, elbows in. Tap, extend, tap, extend. Now tap and pause and just notice what happened. Did your weight drift to one leg a little bit? Did your weight shift forward a little bit? Did your ribs want to lift up a little bit? And extend and bring your hands down. All right, let's do another balancing pose. Actually, before we do the balancing, we're going to do a couple other things. So let's step your right foot forward, your left foot back, hip distance apart, edges of feet straight, and rotate from the pelvis. Try to feel like your thigh creases are going back as you push your hips back any amount. Are you leaning your weight to one side? Bring it to center. Bring your belly button to the center of your legs. That will help. And then come up and switch. And this is just hinge forward, rotate from the pelvis. So we're not rounding as little as we can, or we're trying to come out of it. We're aware that we round and we're trying to maybe don't go so low with our torso. Relax your belly. If you are really easy at getting your tailbone to lift up and your ribs to thrust, less common, but for you, ribs up. If you're a very mobile person, like I am, then you have to be more aware of stabilizing yourself. But I just think of this and how common it is when people come into this and they're like, well, I'm not feeling enough sensation. And they just want to go down. They want to go down. But how often are we in this position normally in our daily life? It's not a lot. So the chances are that, your nerves are going to need time to connect to your muscle to start to feel more sensation in these positions. Okay, step up. We haven't done this one in a while. You're going to use your chair. If your chair doesn't work for any reason, you can do this version where you put your heel down, your toes up, and you sit your hips back to do a hamstring stretch. So that's a version one, and you can do one side and then the other. But the other version is anywhere on your chair, the seat or rungs, if your chair allows, try to put your foot up on the chair. With two straight legs, outer edge of your standing leg straight, right underneath your hip. And you can just stay here and try to straighten your legs. You can also rotate forward from your pelvis a little bit. And be content with where you are. Notice if your weight keeps drifting over to that standing leg, bring it back to center, even if that means your torso goes a little crooked. And then switch feet. So again, you can do heel down and sit back into a chair pose, or you can even sit back with your legs straight or foot up any height and edge of the bouncing leg straight, hip right under the heel. You can stay right there or back your hips up a little bit. All right, take another breath. Come on up, take your foot down, and let's do our last balancing challenge. Outer edges of the feet straight, ankles hip distance apart. Push down through one hip, your knee bends, and then you start to circle your thigh bone back, in, forward, out to the side. Try to draw a full circle. Take your time. And then pause and do the circle in the other direction. And feel what it feels like. At first, it's not going to be clear. But for instance, if you're doing this circle and you tend to have tension sometimes in your lower back area, and you bring your thigh in close and you're like, oh, I feel that tension that I feel all the time. First, you want to check, is your pelvis in neutral, your ribs relaxed down? But that could be an indication that you're spending a lot of time in that position and you don't realize it with your legs too close together, for instance. Okay, switch sides. Feet straight, ankles hip distance, push down, bend the heel in towards your buttocks, and circle your thigh bone around. Make sure you're drawing the full circle. Take your time. Pause, circle in the other direction. And then put that leg down. Bring your hands to the back of the chair. Walk back, 2 straight arms, 2 straight legs. If your spine is still rounding, get your hands higher. You can use a wall. You can just not lean forward so much and still push your hips back. It can be multiple different things. I had a private client who had a lot of tension in his back for a long time when we did this, and he was working on getting his pelvis into neutral, his ribs up. Now that tension has disappeared completely for a while now, which is good. But at first he had to walk his feet forward and really try to push his hips back behind his heels. So you could do something like that. And then just maybe don't stay as long at first. Smaller increments more often. Great time to rotate your thigh bones into neutral. And come up and have a seat in your chair. Move your props out of the way. Sit whatever you want to sit on. And then from here, you can also change the height of your chair sometimes. I was thinking about doing that once in a while. So, but if you're new, stick with the same chair for a while. All right, let's walk your feet all the way together. Big toes touching, pelvis in neutral. Ribs relax down, and just try to keep rotating your pelvis forward a little. You can bring your hands to your thighs. You can bring your elbows down. And while you're here, instead of letting your head go forward, gently ramp your head up. Letting your lower belly relax. And then come up and step your feet wider than hip distance, not a lot. Hinge forward, rotating from the pelvis. Again, the higher your hips, the easier it will be to rotate. Hands to your thighs or elbows to your thighs. From here, instead of letting the head, like the chin jot forward, ramp the head up gently, chin goes in. So you're feeling that length along the back of the neck. And then come up and walk your feet into hip distance apart. And I'd like you to pick something up. So anything you have that has maybe a little bit of weight to it. It could just be a yoga block. It could be a towel, which is going to be, a towel or a non-cork yoga block is going to be the lightest. It could be a thick rolled up mat that has heaviness to it. It could be a pillow. If you have something like a rolled up mat, hold on to it with your palms and elbows up, so that way you're helping yourself stay in neutral. If you have something like this where you're holding onto the sides of it, or a block where you're holding onto the sides of it, you have to be a little more conscious of your elbows not popping out to the side. So you keep your elbows in, and it's okay if it's a little closer than hip distance apart. For me, I can actually hold my hands on the underside of this. Now think pelvis in neutral, ribs relaxed down, and you're just lifting and lowering without the ribs coming up, without sinking back in your hips. And these are called log raises, but really you can use anything around your house. And I would start with something light if you have a big rib thrust and it's hard to keep your ribs down. And actually, sometimes if you start with something a little heavier, you might notice it's easier to keep your ribs down. It really depends on the person. But you can work with things of different weight, and ribs relax down and elbows in neutral. So that's why sometimes it's nicer if you have something a little bit wider if your shoulders are tight so that your arm bones aren't quite so close to each other. And let's do 2 more of these. Breathing. And lower it down. And then as you come to put it on the floor, you can just hinge forward a little bit, rotating from your pelvis. Ramp your head so the back of the head goes to the ceiling a little bit. Come up nice and slowly, lean back in your chair, either bring your prop inside your left foot or cross your ankle over. You can just stay leaning back for now, or you can rotate your pelvis into the upright position. I don't do it leaning back so much, so I'm going to lean back for this one. Also, we're getting towards the end of class, so a little bit more relaxation. And let's switch. And so one of the other things that I love about neutral is that if you get into neutral and you start, you're just like, if you start feeling the difference in your body, because sometimes you go into neutral, you turn your feet straight, you line up your ankles hip distance, you back your weight up over your heels, and it takes a while to even wake those muscles up, to change them. It could be years to start to shift things for as long as we've been doing things, but you'll notice subtle benefits along the way. So that's the wonderful part about it. But then once you get into neutral, then the sky's the limit. Then you're just like, well, I'm so used to sitting with a neutral pelvis in the class, I'm going to sit and hinge back, or I'm going to start trying something a little bit different to mix up the way you're using your muscles, because now you've started to move in a way that your brain is connected to your muscles and it's using your muscles more equally around your joint because you're in neutral more naturally, and then you can move in all ways and it becomes safer rather than constantly, having a pattern that's loading yourself unequally. All right, uncross your ankle. Come on up with your pelvis, stretch your legs straight, heels down, toes up. Rotate from your pelvis forward. Take a couple breaths here. And even in this forward fold, you can ramp your head a little bit, and then after you ramp your head, you can drop your forehead down. And then come on up and bend your knees and sit back in your chair and let your gaze soften or your eyes gently close and become very present with your body. Become very present with your breath. And when we're in our final pose, our observation time, if neutral comes very easily, if your hips are high and you're getting that rotation with ease, that's fine, but don't hold anything stiff. Let yourself relax now so that you can observe your body without kind of creating blockages in it by holding yourself in positions. And stay present to this moment, to your body, to feeling from your hands to your shoulders, from your feet to your hips, from your buttocks to the crown of your head. Stay present with your body, with your breath. Discover true power. Much of our journey involves learning about power. We learn about the powers we don't have, the power to control others, sometimes ourselves and fate. We discover our true power, the power to take an endless journey into freedom and love. We talk about, experience, and experiment with many kinds of power along the way. The power of authority, the power of money, the power of prestige, the power of control, the power of rage, anger, intimidation. We see many kinds of negative powers, manipulation, deceit, fraud. We see people trying to steal power from others. We see people letting others take their power away, crawling into shells, hiding and being dragged along by others. We see that many forms of power are illusions. Money goes just so far, prestige is fleeting, popularity holds no immunity from life's experiences, control is only momentary, we turn our backs and the situation reverts. We trudge the roads searching for power, learning about our own. Somewhere on the journey, we begin to see the truth. It awakens quietly within us, shaking our soul, transforming our vision, teaching us what we knew all along. The power that lasts, the power that stays, is the power of the heart. Stillness, faith, gentleness, kindness, compassion, joy, forgiveness, comfort, vulnerability, honesty, courage, and love. Now we're talking about power. That's from a book called Journey to the Heart that I read from often. When you're ready, bringing your hands to heart center. In gratitude for this day, may we tap into our true power today. Namaste.